Hello, noble ones. Welcome to Metatron's Academy. If there is one thing that I'm addicted to is to see hyperpolyglots and superpolyglots and megapolyglots and all of that nonsense being exposed as the frauds they oftentimes are. And here is a video titled, "This hyperpolyglot is a fraud." Boom. Okay, well, get the popcorn, I suppose.
What's up, grinders? So tonight we have the story of a hyperpolyglot, someone who claims to speak 46 languages.
Nonsense.
Now, if you know anything about me, Evildea does not believe that people generally speak 46 languages.
Evildea being the name of the channel.
And if you do speak 46 languages, I need extraordinary evidence.
Right.
And unfortunately for this polyglot, they did this stupid idea of making a video of them speaking 46 languages.
I see. So you can catch them because it's nonsense to just memorize a couple of sentences. Let me guess. I hope it's at least it's like a new tactic, because the old school tactic of I jump cut every 16 milliseconds and I memorize 3 sentences and I mispronounce them. It's so easy to debunk. I'm kind of hoping from a strategic level to get a challenge at least. Anyways, let's see.
And I just happen to know just enough people to almost cover all 46 languages. So in this video,
epic.
we're going to be tearing the ass out of a hyperpolyglot.
Nice.
Now, when I started on this little journey a couple of days ago, and I will reveal how it started, I thought this was the age-old story of a hyperpolyglot trying to sell some bullshit product,
Yeah.
you know, using the fact that the majority of people don't speak these languages to his benefit in order to make money.
And not to mention that, yes, that is oftentimes the case with the fraud polyglots and the super clickbaity types, but it's important to underline that oftentimes I think it's self-gratification. Like, these people do it because they want to feel special. They want to be, oh, look at me. I imagine they want to grow a following. And maybe sometimes they do post a few videos like that because it makes them feel good, like, oh, people are going to think I'm so smart, but then they have success. And now you have to fake it until you make it, right? Because now people think you're an amazing poly. So you start wearing and getting accustomed to this costume, which is a costume, because they don't speak these languages. Maybe if they speak 1, 2, but not 40, then at that point, I think they get addicted to the idea of being considered a super genius that knows all these, has the special secret technique, and that's why they do it.
And although that is 100% true in this case, this story actually takes a darker turn.
Really?
And I'm kind of hoping by the end of this video, if this person ever sees this, it might actually help them turn a new leaf in life. And you'll see what I mean. But at the same time, I don't think that's going to happen. Because by revealing this, I probably put this person in a very difficult situation. Because I'm not even sure they want
To be fair, they put themselves in a really difficult situation.
to be the person that they're showing themselves to be. I feel like they were basically bred into it. Okay. Let's take a step back.
What does that mean?
So this story starts a couple of days ago when a friend of mine, an Esperantist, sent me this message. Kion vi pensas pri tiu viro kiu diras ke li kapablas flue paroli en kvadexes lingvoj, inclusive Esperanton kaj Tokipona. So, what do you think about this person who speaks 46 languages, including Esperanto and Tokipona? Now, this person here is a very fluent Esperanto speaker. In fact, they're a native. And they were a little bit surprised with his Esperanto speaking capabilities. So this is quite interesting. He made a video, in it he speaks some Esperanto, and it is quite good. Now, I will review that in due time. And according to this person, his pronunciation seems to be quite good. There is even articles written about his extraordinary memory capabilities, and here is the video. Now, this is the video in question. As you can see, the person goes through and shows off every single one of the languages they know. Now, don't worry, we will get to this. But first, I want to take a look at the article. Now, this seems to be a story.
Very young.
A lifetime in the making. At least 20 years in the making. Because you can see right here, meet the 19-year-old who can read, write, and type 400 languages. Now, for us people who exist within the language learning space, we straight up call bullshit when we see this type of stuff. But for your average normie out there, they actually believe this stuff, which is why I make these videos, because it can be quite...
And even beginners or people who are struggling within the language learning sphere can be susceptible to this sort of sensationalistic approach to language learning, because they might feel, oh, maybe I'm doing something wrong, and this person who's clearly like amazing. I can't even learn one, like a second language, and this person knows 46. Maybe if I learn their method, I think that some people in the language, it's not just the normies like you're calling them, but I think even some people who are struggling but belong to the language learning sphere can be susceptible to this.
Disheartening to think, oh my God, there's someone who just so easily picks up
Yeah.
all these languages, and I've spent the better part of
There you
10
go.
years struggling with one. So let's have a look at this person's claim. This is the person in question, and his story basically started with his dad and his school. So his dad has a language school, and his dad has basically been, I guess, raising him to be the ultimate expression of what you can learn at this language school.
Right.
And to that end, he has even managed to get his son to take part in competitions in Germany, such as this one right here. Now, at first, I didn't think this competition actually existed, but I did find, one of my Discords actually found a link to a German video about this competition. Basically, at 10 years old, the boy took part in the competition, and he won the competition by translating individual words into 20.
So the kid is talented. We have established this. Well, that's good, because oftentimes the actual frauds, they're not even talented.
Different languages. I don't know how many words, it doesn't say, but he had to do it within the span of an hour, and he beat 70 linguistic experts. But remember, this is a 10-year-old doing this. But when you think about this, at 10 years old, being able to do this into 20 different languages shows that this kid is highly capable.
Right.
But like with most stories about hyperpolyglots and stuff, they usually are polyglots. Like, to sell a bullshit lie, it's better to be based in some kernel of truth, as the old saying would say.
Interesting approach, but to be honest, after having seen quite a few polyglots, I don't think that most of them are actually good, or they are really polyglots. It's not what is a polyglot would be the first question we need to ask. And maybe this can be an item of this discussion/debate. What makes you a polyglot? Does having beginner level or lower intermediate level in 5 languages, not to mention the number, what is the number? You're a polyglot. And a language number 5, language number 4, do dialects count? Like, there are a few things we should consider. But regardless of that, even if we decide, you have to know, 5 languages to be a polyglot, great. But what's the level? Because, I'd rather be someone who is really, really fluent and even professionally fluent at 2 languages, and then maybe I study here and there a little bit for passion about other languages. I guess I'm not a polyglot at that point. Then to be someone who, I'm a polyglot, but it's like he's good in one language, and then the rest, he just knows some elementary stuff, but he's a polyglot because he can put together a couple of sentences. And here's the thing. Are they really polyglots? We should really create a professional academic definition of what the heck a polyglot is. So do you have to have, if we have to involve the common European frame of reference in it, do you have to have at least C1 level in 6 languages, 5 languages? Then you can call yourself a polyglot. Because people call themselves polyglots just because they learn a few sentences. They're not polyglots at that point. They're not. They're just people who are passionate about languages, full stop. And if they kept it at that, I would never criticize someone who's like, I'm so passionate, I love languages, that's all I do. So I know I'm not fluent in all these languages, I'm fluent in 2, but I really like learning this and I want to share these. Look, I like how they say it in this language, this sentence, I want to repeat it. I even like, good, great, nice. But then there is the whole, let me teach you my method. And that's when there is a problem. But the definition of what a polyglot is, it's really crucial for us to actually even have a debate on whether or not most polyglots are actually polyglots.
So once we dig into this article, things start to fall apart. Like, it becomes obvious what's kind of happened here over time. Now, the first part I kind of noticed as I was reading through, apart from all of that up there, is the things that he said about language learning in general. For example, a polyglot's routine. Balancing this mastery, education, and teaching is no small feat. I wake up at 5 a.m. to practice languages for 2 hours every day as my brain gets most oxygen. You are not going to be able to maintain 46 languages or
with only 2 hours
400 languages, according to this article, on just 2 hours a day. Hell,
he's absolutely right. 400, unless all you need to maintain is 3 sentences per language. See, we go back to the previous item of discussion I mentioned.
spend that on one language a day.
Yeah.
And that is just to learn the language, not even to maintain it. Now, to maintain Esperanto, I'll spend, like 10 minutes a day maybe doing something with it, but then there'll be days where I'll spend several hours with the language. But here's where things also get some more interesting.
I do believe daily is fundamental when it comes to language learning at any level, and whether it be maintenance or whether it be what have you. Daily is fundamental.
Have a look at this thumbnail. I'll give you a couple of seconds if you can spot anything quite odd within the thumbnail.
Let me see. Indian polyglot speaks 46 languages, and there are a bunch of flags.
Look at the flags.
Yeah. What about it? Japanese, French, I can see, Russian. Got a bunch of Nordic languages. Greek,
Okay,
Arabic,
I think that's probably enough time. You
Chinese.
can always pause if you want. There's a Korean flag in here, but it's the North Korean flag. Now, you guys probably remembered that I jokingly said on my channel, I'm going to learn North Korean, like the accent of the North Korea, so that I could walk around Seoul speaking with the wrong accent type of thing. So I obviously straight up saw this. And another thing is...
This was also spotted by a member of the Discord. Yeah, but I don't know where you're going with that. I mean, maybe he just doesn't know freaking flags, or whoever made the thumbnail doesn't really understand. He just Googled Korea.
I'm someone who loves flags. So straight up I noticed that. And I've also noticed that a lot of these languages are not the standard languages your polyglots go out and learn. They're the types of languages you might learn if you want no one to counteract what you've got to say.
Interesting, a little weak as an item of evidence, but I imagine you're going to present more. Because it could just be that these are the languages the guy likes.
So I'll leave the article in the description. You guys can go through it yourselves. There's quite a bit of humor in here, I will say. But let's get to the juicy part.
Yeah, let's go.
So we're going to start with the English. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch through this video with you all and pause it for each language and tell you my idea about his level in that language if I speak it. And if I don't speak it, I'm going to refer to others.
That's pretty good.
I have collected critiques for pretty much every language here, bar a few that I could not find people that spoke.
I'm curious to see if he has got Italian. I think he speaks Mandarin. I read his channel banner. He does speak Mandarin. I speak Mandarin too, so we can both analyze that. I do speak Japanese, so I can analyze that. And of course, I'm a native Italian. I can analyze that.
Those languages, but they're languages that not that many people generally go out and learn. So my assumption is that he doesn't actually speak them, and that is based on the fact that...
So they are fillers. That's what you are proposing. They're just fillers because there is a less likelihood that anyone would notice.
Reviewed all the other languages. Now let's start with the English. Just be prepared that this is English.
When a person clams against speaking numerous languages, it won't be a massive surprise that English on the list. I bet you guys were in shock when we speak English, right?
Okay.
I did not understand anything. Oh, you gotta be joking.
Straight up, his English started okay, and then just completely deteriorated to the point where I actually didn't understand him without the subtitles. And I thought maybe this is like some Indian subcontinent accented version of English. Like, I'm not going to mock their English because
for sure.
they speak it differently to my own. But I've actually had people confirm that they don't even speak English like that over there. And
did he do it very fast to impress the people who don't speak English? That's weird though, because Indians usually speak English pretty decently. So that's actually, I was not expecting that.
Also had other English speakers review this.
Yeah.
Basically, as you can see on the screen right now, the summary is that they would need a translator if they were speaking with this person.
Absolutely.
Okay, now let's go to Hindi.
Hindi,
now, I actually assumed that he probably spoke this language fluently.
It depends where in India he's from. He could be speaking Assamese.
Along with the next language that comes up on the list, Urdu. So I'm just going to watch these two.
मेरा नाम आक्रम है हालांकि मैं वाराणसी हूँ मेरी मातृभाषा हिंदी नहीं है असल में मैं तमिलनाडु से हूँ जो साउथ इंडिया में एक स्टेट है फॉरेनर्स को लगता है कि पूरे इंडिया में बस हिंदी बोली जाती है लेकिन ये सच सही नहीं है मेरी मतलब 70 to 80% लोग हिंदी समझते हैं लेकिन मेरी मातृभाषा तमिल है
उर्दू
ज्यादा लोग सोचेंगे कि इंडिया में हिंदी बोली जाती है और पाकिस्तान में उर्दू बोली जाती है मगर हिंदी और उर्दू असल में एक ही ज़बान है बस स्क्रिप्ट और
One thing about speaking very fast, by the way, I would like to say, it is something that you do when you do have that characteristic. Not everyone is a fast speaker, but some people are, and I happen to be one. And when you're a fast speaker and you're starting to learn a language and you can achieve easily the high speeds in that language, sometimes people will do it to show off. But once you actually become confident in the language, you cannot drop that unless you need to. So in my case, after like quite a few 8 years of Japanese, yes, I can speak it very fast. But when I'm speaking to Japanese people, I speak it at a normal speed. And the only times when I do speak it very, very fast, like machine gun fast, which I can, is when I have to, because I'm in a business meeting and I'm in the interpreter, which I have done. I used to do that as a job. So in that case, that's when it's good to speak super fast, because for these people, time is money and all that. But if you constantly speak super fast, you're just showing off, and you're showing that you repeated and rehearsed that specific set of sentences multiple times. And you hope that people think that you could actually pull that one off in everything, item of discussion, which oftentimes is not even the case. But it actually shows that you're still kind of in that stage of your language learning process where you kind of want to show off, look what I can do. But after you do reach confidence and real fluency, you don't need to be like, look at me anymore, because it's just becomes second nature for you to express yourself in whatever target language that has now become one of those that you're confident in.
अल्फाज अलग है हमारे पास एक टर्म भी है हिंदुस्तानी जिसका मतलब हिंदी और उर्दू दोनों ज़बानें.
Okay, so even though he said he's not a native language, I assumed he was, and I got that assumption originally from the idea that that would give him a bunch of languages. Like, I just assumed he probably grew up with these languages, but it turns out he's not a native at all. So I guess the next question is, how good is his Hindi? And according to these comments, as you can see on the screen right now, it is understandable, but it's not great. Like, there are mistakes, and at times...
Which is why kind of reinforces my idea, rather than doing the 40 languages, pick 3 and get to a really good level. Heck, pick 1 and get to an extremely high level. But if you love multiple languages, I'm not here to try and stop you. I myself studied so many. Pick a lower number, reach high level, and then go to the next.
For a Hindi speaker, they probably wouldn't understand him. Now, Tamil is his native language, so there's no critique of this.
வணக்கம்.
I'm going to skip it.
Chinese, he's now
Mandarin, okay.
Okay, Mandarin Chinese.
Let's go.
He's now stepping into my territory. First, I will give you my review, and then I'll give you reviews from both other learners and natives.
Yeah.
大家好，我是解虽，现在我是老师也是学生。什么？对啊，我现在在第一院是已经第2了。空闲的时候，我帮别人学各种语言，所以现在我真的是又是老师又是学生，明白了吗？
It's a little bit of a... Apart from the fact that it's 3 sentences, but it's a little bit of a beginner's approach to tones. That's the first thing I noticed. And there are some inconsistencies with the vowels and the way he expresses them. It sounds like a very beginner's Mandarin, but let's see what he says.
Okay, I feel sorry for his students because his Chinese started okay and then completely and utterly collapsed at different points in there where I had to 100% rely on the subtitles. And this is...
No, I did understand him, but it's... Yeah, as I say.
It's not complex Chinese. And if you're going to make such a short clip in the language, you'd probably practice it maybe once or twice beforehand to fix up these issues. Now, the main issues here is that he actually can't pronounce the sounds properly.
Yep.
There are certain sounds within Chinese which he's just not able to pronounce. And
because he hasn't studied it, because how could he? He would have to be 600 years old to do that in 40 languages.
Tones are basically all over the place.
Yeah.
Now, let's go look at what others have got to say. So we'll just jump to the native in the middle, and they say...
Yeah, there was no consistent third tone. His second tone was kind of weird. Yeah, it's true. There was no... Yeah.
The exact same thing as me, even the same wording, because that native is my wife. And you can also
very cool.
see that some other learners of Chinese have tried to break down what he's saying, and they also struggled.
Yeah.
So I would say his Chinese is very low level.
Ich war noch nie in Ländern wie China, Hongkong, Macau oder Taiwan. Ich war nur mal in Singapur und das war einfach nur zum Spaß. Besondere seriöse Studios. Als ich da war, habe ich mir gedacht, wäre schon cool, Chinesisch zu lernen. So habe ich dann angefangen, es zu lernen. Und Deutsch habe ich wegen Adolf Hitler und den Nazis gelernt. Na, nur ein Scherz.
Okay, obviously
Ooh,
that was
Japanese
a joke.
is next.
And this is the interesting one. So the comments are that basically his German is not too bad. And he makes mistakes which you would actually expect from a learner as opposed to someone who's trying to mimic the language. And if you remember back to that article, he went to Germany and took part in the competition. So I believe that this is actually a language that
It's one of the real languages that he has some proficiency in. Fascinating analysis.
does speak. and the comments from the people who are watching and reviewing this are the same. It's probably a bad B1.
I see. Japanese, let's go.
影の潜む影を狩るものはいはいそうです私はアニメの大ファンで64シリーズを完全見ましたそれから漢字を上手させるために漫画も読み始めまして日本語は私の漢字を私はアニメの大ファンで64シリーズを完全見ましたそれから漢字を上手させるために漫画も読み始めまして日本語は私のとってエンターテインメントと学びを同時に当ててくれる唯一の言語です
So his Japanese was interesting because although it was understandable to those who commented on it, apparently he was speaking with a very stereotypical manga accent.
At the beginning only. At the beginning only he clearly did, which was a little cringe. And then after that, he didn't anymore, but he has a very thick accent. So once again, it's not a bad thing to have an accent. You can reach excellent fluency and maintain your accent. Usually I suggest people rather to try and, I want to become a native speaker, which is extremely difficult to do. Just try to get, still, if that's what you want to do, feel free to do it. If it motivates you, as long as it motivates you, it must not frustrate you. If it frustrates you, give it up, reach a good level. But if it motivates you, makes you happy, you love the idea, I want to sound as close to a native as possible, absolutely do it. But what I usually tell my students is try to reach a level whereby you get rid of all of those elements of your pronunciation which would make any communicative event difficult. So the other speaker doesn't understand your pronunciation because your accent is too strong. Then you need to work on it. Because a successful communicative event is what we are trying to achieve when we study languages and we want to learn how to speak them. In the majority of cases, not always, unless you want to become like a written translator, whatever. So yeah, also there is no pitch whatsoever. Not that, once again, pitch is a really contrasted element, but because this guy is a super polyglot genius, I'm expecting the pitch as well, right? And he did say kanji, even though it's kanji. And there are a million other things where the pitch was, he of course has no idea that even exists. It's a very, once again, beginner level Japanese of someone who has just started.
And this actually pissed off one of the reviewers of this language.
I understand that.
It's hard to say, and he does mix up sounds, but it seems like he has actually dabbled with Japanese.
나는 애니메이션 보기 전에 K-드라마를 먼저 봤어. 한국어는 들었으든 말하든 진짜 외노노야. 여주인공들이 오빠랑 싸울 때 목소리가 진짜 고엽지. 특히 화 쏠 때는 더 고여워. 하지만 나는 한국 여자랑은 절대 데이트 안 할 거야. 얼가 구해서가 아니라.
Okay, of those who reviewed his Korean, the first comment was actually that of sadness because they were expecting the North Korean dialect as per the thumbnail. However,
as per the thumbnail, yeah.
Overall, his Korean doesn't sound like Korean, and he was only really understandable about 50% of the time, and they basically relied on the subtitles.
Polyglots 101, Bosnian.
So Korean ki priznaju ime odmah pozivam. Ne bih prihvatio nijednu. Jere da se.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, Bosnian proved a difficult one because I couldn't find a native
Why was there some anime Japanese at the end?
Speaker. However, the comments are that he basically has a very thick accent. He makes mistakes, although he used the grammar correctly at certain points.
Using the grammar correctly when it comes to polyglots, that it doesn't even mean anything because it could be a pre-made sentence. I mean, just a pre-made sentence, you read it, but you don't know what you're saying. It's just a bunch of sounds. And so I think an indicator more than grammar is the pauses, the natural pauses within speech flow that someone who is experienced with a language knows how and when to insert.
And it was basically hit and miss.
Sorry, للمجد والعليا مجدي لخالق السماء وارفع الخفض اختر يحمي النور المسطر ردد يا الله اكبر يا موطني موطني استفخر مسلم عاش الملك للعلم.
Why is he singing? It's like it would be, this is the equivalent of like a hyperpolyglot saying, hey, I'm speaking English, let me sing a hymn from a church. Oh, it's the national anthem. It's the national anthem, I see. So like Fratelli d'Italia. Fratelli d'Italia, l'Italia se desta. How about that? I'm fluent in Italian.
يمكن إيش في مسقط سنة كده تقريبا بس أسوأ شيء بالعربية هو اللهجة خليجي عماني نجدي حجازي مصري شامي جزائري مغربي يمني وعراقي كثير وجيل يلا بس لهجتي المفضلة هي الإماراتية.
Okay, so he actually received good comments on his Arabic. Basically, his pronunciation was understandable, and it was probably the first language that they believed he had studied.
C'est le même de parler un peu de langue romaine. Le français, c'est clairement ma préférée dans cette famille. On dit que le français, c'est la langue de la mort.
Le français, c'est la langue de la mort. It's like you can't get more stereotypical than that sentence.
Dans le monde,
La France est très belle. J'aime bien la baguette. La pasta è buona. La pizza col pomodoro.
l'arabe est pas trop compliqué, mais la prononciation, c'est pas facile. Le français, c'est facile pour les Européens, mais pour les Indiens, pas vraiment.
Okay, so the comments on his French were that
Indien wasn't bad. He's got decent nasalized sounds, but everything else was just copy paste, the most basic sentence that you could ever make.
he definitely made mistakes.
Misaccorded
some of them
the
that
genre,
were
yeah.
really bad mistakes for someone to be making at that
Oh
level.
yeah, he said amour, not amour. Exactly. I don't even know why I didn't notice that. Of course, amour, not amour.
French, if you're actually at the level that he's showing here, they would be something that basically a learner of the language would have to get right early on.
Yeah.
And also that he had kind of a bad accent.
Yeah, la langue de l'amour.
Me llamo Tokio, pero cuando comencé esta historia, no me llamaba así. Ese era yo y ese es el amor de mi vida. La última vez que lo vi, lo dejo en un charco de sangre con los ojos abiertos. Hicimos 15 atracos limpios, pero mezclar el trabajo y el amor nunca funciona. Así que cuando el segurata disparó, tuve que cambiar de profesión ladrona a asesina. Nani?
Overall, the comments on the Spanish were that it was
Guys, next is Italian.
bad. And he's basically just reciting a piece
Yeah.
from Money Heist, which is a Netflix
Oh,
show.
really?
And the character being Tokyo.
Pizza o pasta? A me piacciono entrambe. Quando vedo qualcuno che sta imparando l'italiano, parla sempre con quel gesto. Sul serio, non c'è uno studente d'italiano che non lo faccia.
Oh, it's terrible. This is really bad. Like, I'm not trying to be an asshole. I was actually getting ready to say, you know what, his Italian is pretty good. It's horrible. This is really bad. I'm sorry to say that because it makes me feel bad. But then again, his stress is completely wrong. Like, he hasn't got a clue how to pronounce any word. Like, he's never heard someone say any of those words in Italian. I feel bad because usually I don't say that. I always want to be motivating towards people. But that's a bit of a mockery of my language, to be honest.
Ormai è diventata quasi una moda. O forse dovrei dire un meme?
Okay,
Yeah, and the grammar is it's a mess. Yeah.
the comments on his
They're wrong. His Italian is better than his Spanish? No, I don't think so.
Italian are that they seem to be better than Spanish, but I also have a comment here from a native Italian speaker, the third
go.
one being that, where they found a ton of holes in his Italian capabilities.
Yeah, all the stresses are wrong. It would be like instead of saying conversation, he said conversation. The stresses are very important in Italian. And usually, I mean, every student of Italian that I've ever met learns it, learns where to place it. This makes me feel, I'm going to be honest, okay? Yeah, exactly. Qualcuno. You see, that's the wrong. It's qualcuno, not qualcuno. L'italiano instead of l'italiano. Exactly. It's completely wrong. And so it makes me feel like he never even studied it. This is someone who has never, he just got a text and tried to read it fast. He did not put even a 15 minutes into my language. I'm sorry.
In that 18 seconds of speech.
Yeah.
Ako belajar bahasa Asia yang paling senang ni. Sebab dia tak ada artikel, tak ada conjugation, tak ada tenses, tak ada tata bahasa yang susah. And abjad dia pun senang gila. Tapi aku tak pernah pergi Malaysia, cuma banyak kali singkat clear untuk transit je.
The comment was here that he seems to be reading off a teleprompter. And as we go further and further through these videos, you'll see that this comment starts to become...
So basically you see that he's moving his eyes. That's one thing that annoys me. In fact, once in my career as a YouTuber, I made over 1,000 videos. I never used the teleprompter. And when the camera is facing me, I never read. When the camera is off, Yeah, sometimes I'm reading something from my script because I know I'm going to put a B-roll there. But if I'm speaking and I'm looking at you, there is never anything within 1,000 videos. Once one person was like, I can tell you're reading because I was using like high-level vocabulary. I'm like, that annoys me because I put a lot of effort into my videos because I memorize. When it's like, it's a video like this, it's improvised. I'm not memorizing anything. I'm just speaking naturally. But when it comes to the videos that are deeper and they're an actual presentation, I memorize the entire script. I'm talking 7 pages, 10 pages, 15 pages. I memorize the whole thing so that when I rehearse, I recite it to the camera. I don't need to focus on how I say the things. I can focus on what I'm saying and how to not waste your time with the likes of or taking forever to get to the point. That's why I put so much effort to increase the quality of the presentation sometimes to memorize an entire script, similarly to how you would if you were an actor, if you will. It does piss me off when people just read and you can see the eyes going like this throughout the whole thing. I'm like, come on, it personally offends me, but that's it. Okay, so I'm not gonna watch every single language. I think we watched quite a few. Danish, Swedish, I think it's Latin. Oh, I need to check Latin though.
Cum 12 annos natus essem, noam linguam ipse inveni, ilam atta appellavi, que significat pater. Hanc mirablem ideam acp ex linguis mortuis et linguis constructis.
It's a bit like, it's ecclesiastical and there is no phonemic vowel length whatsoever. So, yeah. Well, no, this is wrong though. He's pronouncing the V like in English. That's fine. Yeah, here we go. It's in ecclesiastical Latin. That's fine. It's not wrong. It's not like he said he was going to try and recreate classical. Ecclesiastical is acceptable unless you're telling me that Julius Caesar sounded like that. But yeah, it was pretty bad. Dreadfully wrong. There was no phonemic vowel length whatsoever.
Now, I've only dabbled with Latin and I never really learnt its pronunciation because it was not a priority for me.
Sure.
So I can't really talk to that. However, I did get some other Latin speakers to take a look. And as you can see right now, he is mispronouncing the language, which seems to be a common theme, that everything is
I don't think he's mispronouncing. I mean, yes, he is mispronouncing, but the V is not a good example. And the ch as well is not a good example because it's ecclesiastical and that's fine. Albanian, Persian, Hebrew, Dutch, Russian, or Greek. My gosh, he does all of them. Zulu, Vietnamese, Marjan. Let's check the conclusion. If you want to see the rest of the video, I will leave a link in the description below and a pinned comment so that you can watch the rest of the video on the actual channel.
If you look at the comments, nearly all of them are completely positive.
I see.
And the only ones that are not positive are basically ones that have been posted like this in the last 8 hours.
And then they get removed.
What's happening here is quite evident. They're deleting any negative comments.
That's horrible. I hate that.
Okay, so what seems to be happening here, and this is pretty obvious to anyone within the language space, is there's a couple of tricks that are basically happening. He's gotten scripts for each one of these languages. Maybe he asked natives. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he just used online translation systems because some of them used grammar and some of them didn't.
No native would have given him that Italian script, regardless of the pronunciation mistakes. He used some expressions that don't exist, and he put like pieces together that don't exist in Italian. I can confirm that.
And as evident from the languages I speak, he's then just mimicked them.
Yeah.
Now, with Tokipona, he obviously didn't know anyone who spoke Tokipona, and he didn't even spend 2 seconds learning the phonology of Tokipona, which would be so easy to do. It's the easiest language to add to your list, and he screwed it up big time. So he's obviously got a script, and then he's listened to it probably a couple of times, and now he's mimicked it.
It's either that, I think he does that with some languages, you have a point, but with other languages like Italian, I don't think he even did that. I think he probably did it for the first 15 languages and then gave up on trying to listen to it entirely and just read it. Even Latin gave me that feeling. He just tries and reads it. He tries to read it and thinks no one is going to notice it anyways because he doesn't understand anything. So he thinks about that language, so he thinks that whoever listens, they don't know, and so they'll just take it for granted.
Due to the fact that he comes from a multilingual country, he probably has a good range in his ability to pronounce foreign sounds. However, even in that case, he stretched it way beyond its limits, and he basically messed up a bunch of languages. Because the mistakes that he made...
Guys, let's keep in mind, though, that even if this, like I'm agreeing with the creator here, and I absolutely understand it, and I'm a massive supporter of the idea of pointing the finger, but let's not getting crazy. Okay, it's true that they remove the comments, but we don't need to go there and just attack the guy and tell him horrible things. I think what we're doing is enough. Okay, exposing fake polyglots is enough. It needs to be done because there are people that are going to buy stuff and it's going to mess up the language community and they're going to waste their money. So we have to do it, but we don't have to go ballistic against them and actually send a lot of hatred. Being exposed as basically a fake polyglot, I think, is enough punishment. Let's stay civil.
Are mistakes that you wouldn't make if you actually spent time learning the language.
Right.
Like, these are things you need to learn in the first week. You need to learn the accent for Esperanto, and it's a very easy rule. And you need to learn how to pronounce the actual sounds of Tokipona. And then, of course, it's the same with Latin. Now, I can't talk to the other languages, but I guarantee you what's happened here is that he's probably studied German to a B1 level. He's played around with Japanese and maybe with Arabic, and maybe touched on a tiny bit with a couple of other languages. Now, he said in the video he doesn't claim to speak them 100% fluently.
Who the heck does? I don't claim to speak English 100% fluency, if we're really going there.
This is kind of a trick of words right now.
It is.
If you only knew the bare minimum of these languages, you wouldn't even use the word fluent. You would say, this is a list of the languages I've dabbled in, and this is me attempting to speak those languages.
That is, if polyglots were honest.
Now, based on the story that I read in the article and the competition he took part in, it was a translation exercise, one word to one word. And he seems to focus a lot on the written language. So I have the belief, basically, based on this and all the comments that I've seen so far, is that realistically, he's probably no more of a polyglot than I am. Like, we probably speak a similar amount of languages.
For what I could see about you, I think you are more of a polyglot than him.
I don't
Because you take it seriously, that's the thing.
go around claiming to speak 47 languages. I don't say, well, I don't speak them 100% fluently.
Yeah, it's like exactly. His Italian was like 0.3%.
I've probably dabbled in 47 languages. But there's no way in hell I'm going to make a video of me attempting to speak those 47 languages. For those...
When it comes to me, I would say probably 7 is the number, I would say. Not 47, just 7 is the number of languages I have actually studied and put some time in. And of these, the fluent ones are probably 4, 5, depending. But yeah, I wouldn't put 5 now, 4, but different levels of fluency, different degrees of fluency, absolutely.
Those who don't know, most of the languages I've dabbled in have actually been constructed languages, so most of you probably wouldn't even be able to critique me anyway. But that's besides the point.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm hoping is going to happen now is the language learning community is going to unite and write out comments, especially for those languages that I couldn't get critiques for, and provide, more information about those that I could. And for the person who features in this video, what I hope happens for you is that you're obviously an intelligent guy.
Right.
You've won competitions since you're a young age. You obviously know at least some other languages. You've studied them. Drop this bullshit idea that you speak 47 languages.
Fair.
Because if you do plan to do anything in the language learning community, your reputation is tarnished forever. And in fact, this video may be the destructive force for that. So you're going to have to somehow recover from this.
Yeah.
Now, I also said at the start that I feel like maybe you were pushed in.
Which is fine, by the way, too. You can recover as long as you drop it. Drop that, rebrand, change it, show that you've changed, focus on 2 languages, 3 languages, whatever. Get them to a really high level, demonstrate it, possibly live at this point, because no one is going to believe you otherwise, so now you've got to do it live. Yeah, this was well done. He was fair. I'll give him a like. He was fair. He did a good job. Thank you for producing the video, and I'm happy to join forces if we want to find a few others. Let's expose them. Thank you, Noble Ones, for joining Metatron's Academy. Bye.